Hiya! Hello, good morning. This is Good Morning from Vince and this morning's Grow Joe. Now I want to talk to you about closhes today. These are my closhes, the ones I build, and they're made out of waste materials and bits of water pipe, but the most expensive thing is surface material. This is quite special. This I'm running trials on in a minute. Last night we had quite a hard frost. The night before we had quite a hard frost. Only these are the most sensitive plants that I know, and they're completely untouched. The odd one's missing, the slugs have had them, but the frost hasn't. Now that's because they're under a cloche. Now there's many materials you can use for a cloche. Polythene is good. The only trouble with polythene is whatever you put underneath, you have to water. Netting, you can put quite large netting up. Big problem with that is the small stuff get through the holes. So if it's something like peas, then netting won't do you any good because the pea moth is smaller than the holes. This, on the other hand, is something I'm trialing this year, and this is Enviromesh. This is like a net. It's quite a tough net. It's guaranteed for several years. And it's, well, it lets in the water, but also, as you can see, it keeps the frost off your plants. So it works two ways, which is excellent. The other material you could use is fleece, which is good, but fleece does tend to make the water go around your cloche instead of through. And if you have to water everything underneath, well, that's possible if you've got a tap handy, but it's not possible on my allotment here. The amount of water I would need would be, well, far too much. So this thing, I could take you through how to make this. This is quite complicated. Most people make simple fleeces using the plastic water pipe and burying the edges or weighing down the fleece as you go along, and then you can put it away in winter. Some have the edges of the water pipe so they're straight up. If you do it like this, it means you can stack one on top of the other for the winter and put them in a corner. Right, now I've made these, my next job, once I'm satisfied that the sweet corn are going to survive, is to move these over onto my cabbages, my Brussels, my Calabrese and every other brassica, and also carrots. And the thing about the fleece is, it doesn't let the butterflies lay eggs on your plant's leaves. If the butterflies don't lay eggs, then you don't end up with any caterpillars, which means you don't have to spray, which means you can actually grow organically. But you have to keep the pests away from your plants. Now, if there's a bit of green fly underneath, you can always find a few ladybirds and stick them under to munch away at the green fly. That's not a problem. But the big stuff is, with peas, it's pea moth. With these, believe it or not, it's something called a frit fly. With pumpkins, courgettes, there's not really a problem. They just want the cold nights keeping off them until we get really into the season. This will give you possibly 3 weeks growing time, so you can grow 3 weeks earlier than you would out in the open. Which something like sweet corn that we can only really just about grow in this country is ideal, because with sweet corn we can get a nice set of sweet corns ready for October. Well, we can get them ready for August, but they'll be in the freezer for October. But when they're ready for August, it means that the kids like to come down to the allotment and we can barbecue sweet corn straight on the allotment plot while you're working. So it makes it really, really a nice thing to do. The other thing you could do with closhes is you can overwinter stuff. So if you've got lettuces, then if you put them in October, winter density is a good one for that, then they will keep the worst of the winter off it and keep your lettuces perfect so you can pick them through the winter. And the nice thing about cabbages through the winter is we have a lot of trouble with pigeons here, and these keep the pigeons completely off. Now if you look at my peas, you can see a problem here that I've got. There's not many peas, and that's because we've got a pheasant that's nesting just about 3 meters in that direction, and it's eaten all mine and my neighbours' peas. I can't begrudge it. It's sitting on a nest and it's full of eggs at the minute. They'll hatch into nice fluffy chicks. However, the next lot of peas I plant, I don't want them eaten, so I'm going to cover them. That will not be with a cloche, it'll be with some wire netting, and that's just to keep the pheasants and pigeons off them. The mice and the rats, not a lot you can do with that. However, cloches, they're worthwhile doing. You can make them out of almost anything, but if you've got odds and ends of this water pipe, or you see it in a skip in a neighbour, save it. It's really pays for its own on an allotment like this. And these are a funny shape. It makes maximum use of the material I've got, because the material itself is not cheap. And if you buy it, it's worthwhile buying good stuff because it's an investment. It'll last you several years. If you buy the really cheap discount stuff, it's damaged in a year, and then you've got to replace it every year. So after a couple of years, it costs you much more than buying the good stuff in the first place. Well, I'll let you know later on in the year how really good this Enviro mesh is. As I've mentioned before, we could have used